I want to mention something where Sam Harris and I could have a disagreement. And what Sam Harris says is that atheists won't point out the bad behavior of other atheists and say, well, because of that, you're not an atheist. Like Christians will point out the bad behavior of other Christians and say that you're not a Christian. He says that's a no true Scotsman error, which it isn't. You see, Sam Harris is going off the notion that if you believe in God and you believe God is Jesus, you're a Christian. Well, you need to read the Bible. I don't believe in God. I do not. I think that's as silly as believing in leprechauns, unicorns, and Santa Claus. I'm 40 years old. I kind of figured this out when I was 12 and went by agnostic. Then came out as an atheist 13 years ago when I was 27. After I had sex for the first time. Because I reasoned that believing that a supernatural being made me feel this good after fucking for the first time was ridiculous. Because any kind of good feeling comes from neurochemicals. In this case, serotonin, dopamine, little adrenaline, testosterone, but mostly oxytocin. And I just reasoned, well, shit. A feeling this good and I'm an agnostic makes me seem stupid. I'm an atheist now. And that was my moment of enlightenment. The chemicals were better than God. Because the chemicals exist. But the disagreement is that thing where he points out the no true Scotsman, which isn't a no true Scotsman. In order to be a Christian, you can't just believe in God. That's not what a Christian is. Sure, the Census Bureau says that if you're a Christian, you could say you're a Christian, whether or not you're really a Christian. If I come to you, ask you if you're a Christian, and you believe in Jesus, you're probably gonna, and you believe Jesus is God, you're gonna say you're a Christian. But according to the Bible, were you to read it, you can't just believe Jesus was God in order to be a Christian. You might be a theist, which means that you believe in God. You're not an atheist. And you might be a believer that Jesus was God. That does not make you a Christian. Even if you believe Jesus is God, that does not make you a Christian. There is a whole fuck ton of rules to Christianity, which I think when I read the Bible, I don't look at the Bible and say, oh, I need to start doing this. I look at the Bible and say, well, I was doing this anyway. It kind of seems to me like the founders of religion were observing good behavior of others and said, we're going to mark that down and say this is what other people need to do in order to be our religion. And of course, there's a whole bunch of hypocrisy. One of the rules to being a Christian is you have to be humble. Another rule says that you have to be pious. And another rule says that you have to share and not be greedy. Another rule says that you have to love one another. That is probably the most important rule in Christianity. I'm not saying if you love one another, you're a Christian. Because it really doesn't matter. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. You could judge that through religion or psychology or personal experience. A good person is a good person. That's all that really matters. According to the Catholics, if you're a good person, you're going to enjoy paradise when you die. That does not inspire me to be a better person. That's just more of a, well, thank you. I appreciate that. You're wrong, but I'm gonna do good because it makes me feel good, and I release oxytocin when I do it. Blah 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 blah. It's good for my feelings to do good, to be a good person. Sometimes I do fuck up, though, but I'm a human being. And you fuck up, too. Especially when you say things like, don't hang out with Christians or go to homeless shelters run by Christians if you're an atheist, because you should be a separatist. It's not like they're saying don't buy products from Target, even though Target is owned by Christians and mostly ran by Christians. Most people that work at Amazon are Christians because most people in the country are Christian. I don't think Jeff Bezos is a Christian. He sounds more like an agnostic to me, but he might be a Christian. I don't think he's an atheist. But are you saying that people shouldn't shop at Amazon if they're atheists? Because most people that work at Amazon and ship your shit are not atheists? Are they saying that you shouldn't get mail because most mailmen are Christians? Are they saying that you shouldn't use the internet, even though the internet was built by the military and most of those military personnel in the 60s were Christians? Sure, Alan Turing was an atheist, and all the software we use today is because of Alan Turing, but Charles Babbage was a Christian and developed sort of the hardware that we use today. What I'm saying is, we're all in this together. People have contributed that were atheists, that were Muslims, that were men, that were gay, that were women, that were Christian, that were Jews, that were Hindus. Are you saying that if you're an atheist, you shouldn't use Google because it was started by a Hindu? No, you're saying that people that are atheists shouldn't go to homeless shelters because homeless shelters are mostly ran by Christians. Why are you an asshole? So that's my disagreement with a lot of atheists, is the classism. Are you out? Where's the atheist homeless shelter? Where are the atheists? Well, there's not that very many of them. Of course not. So what do you expect atheists to do? Starve? Why are you a classist? Are you for Bernie? Why are you a hypocrite when you're for Bernie? There's shit like that annoys me. Your hypocrisy. And the stuff like, well, what about you? You're a major hypocrite too. Shut your narcissistic mouth, okay? So, I do disagree with a lot of atheists, but I'm not saying that they're not atheists. Like Christians will say that Christians who don't act Christ-like are not true Christians. But if you read the Bible, Jesus said, do what I do and do what I say. So are you sure it's a no true Scotsman error to say that some people who say they're Christians are not really Christians when you have to be humble, when you have to be giving, when you have to be kind? Does that mean that I'm not an atheist because I think that a lot of Christians that think they're Christians are not really Christians, like a lot of Christians say? How are you a Christian if you're not humble? How are you a Christian if you're not kind? How are you a Christian if you're not loving? The Old and New Testament say to do all these things. There's 120 verses in the Bible that say do not gossip or worship money. 100 verses say don't gossip. 120 say roughly don't worship material possessions like a lot of people do. Are you sure you're really a Christian?